Good morning. Good morning, Zoomers. Bright and shiny faces. Good to see you all. As you can, or may, rise and sing number 135 in the green-ish book. Breathe on me, breath of God. Just as a precaution, if you haven't turned your phones to off or airplane mode, look for the little button that says settings and follow the prompts. It does help the Zoomers a lot because without a better reception, you'd have a tendency to sound like you're in a barrel. So just a heads up. A little of the thought this morning, and a little reflection. How many of you like change? All two of you? All right, good idea. It doesn't take much. A little exercise for you this morning, okay? Everybody fold your arms like this. Some of you more conservative are already there. Now, when I count to three, I'd like for you to fold your arms differently. I got one out and one in. I count to three. 1, 2, 3. Refold them in a different fashion, okay? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Go back to where you were and think, I hope he doesn't ask me to do anything else. Okay, let's do this. Hold your hands out like this, and I won't ask Phil to lead us in prayer. Now move your right hand up one click. Doesn't feel so hot, does it? 1, 2, 3, go back to where you were. Are these instructions too difficult for you? Okay, keep it out. Now just move your thumbs. Just move your thumbs. Go back to where you were. Now, if these simple exercises cause you to feel a little uncomfortable, you can imagine what larger change causes you to feel maybe all the way to panic. Okay, I just point out, it doesn't take much for you to feel uncomfortable. And that's why Phil is here. So, my wife asked me to say something motivational, so I went to the Bible. It took me a while. And one of the most motivational Bible verses can be found in Jeremiah 29:11, which says, "For I know the plans that I have for you, plans to prosper and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and future, and build a good map for your life." What scriptures talks about not giving up? 2 Chronicles 15. "But as for you, be strong and do not give up, for your work will be rewarded." What did God say about struggles, finding your way on the maps of life? James first, one of my favorite books. "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." You okay with that? A few months ago, I'm in the process of writing memoirs due to the teacher of the writing group. I have to be ready. So I wrote a memoir called Necessity. I recently heard the well-known phrase, "Necessity is the mother of invention." And a little research found that Plato, the Greek philosopher, had started this little conundrum when he said, "Our need will be the real creator." So I began thinking about the words necessity and need, meaning indispensable, required, or must have, or to solve a problem. This got me thinking about which came first, the problem, necessity, or the solution, invention. We know lots of things have been invented by accident: contact lenses, whiteout, the wheel, marriage. Then I thought of my grandfather, born in 1885. No cars, no planes, no electricity or running water. He died in 1970, 1 year after the man walked on the moon. I recall many conversations with Pop and what he had seen and experienced in his lifetime: light bulbs, penicillin, telephone, dishwashers, airplanes. Wow. I began thinking about places on earth that I still have not received or experienced many of these inventions and more. And even though the world is getting smaller and nearly everything is more accessible, looking at the top 10 list of inventions, I found even more amazing things like the printing press, compass, nails, television, the internet. Once again, which came first, the necessity or the invention? That question brought me to religion. Some forms of rites or religion has been discovered more than 1 million years ago, though definitely not the more formal rites we see or experience today. However, there has been documented thousands of religious or spiritual elements worldwide, all of which were necessary or invented. Which came first? So a simple definition of religion is to provide comfort and guidance, moral beliefs and behavior, community and connection. Do we need or necessitate religion to receive all this? Then, of course, comes the rules of religion. Ours is the best and only way to achieve these gifts. Wars have been fought over these necessary inventions. Want to see some religious rules and customs? Look at the oldest known religion, Hinduism, 4,000 years old. Then move forward a couple of thousand years to Catholicism, or just plain Christianity with over 37,000 recognized groups. Necessity or invention? It seems to me that necessity has moved to second position in our world. Inventions have become the must-have of our lives. Stand in front of the gadget wall at Bed Bath & Beyond. How many times I have said one or more of those compelling items, I need that. It will bring comfort and change to my behavior. Amid all this creating or inventing, I have observed that mankind seems to be the most creative when it comes to destroying another man. Creative hatred and even war. I like the story of Buckminster Fuller. He created the geodesic dome. He was an architect and engineer, and the U.S. Army came to Fuller one day with a hand grenade and asked him if he could make a better one. And he said, "Yes, I can, but I won't." Powerful. I can rant on about what others, which include countries and communities, so-called political leaders locally and internationally, and what they deem as necessities. What do I deem necessities in my life? And what will I invent to satisfy those needs? How about peace? Now, the necessity now is to share announcements. Zoomers first. Do you have any announcements? Someone?
I have an announcement. The last week of September is our Family Promise Support Week. I have put a schedule on the wall, the Family Promise wall towards the kitchen on the left. It's already got a couple slots filled in. If anybody wants to donate or contribute in any way, just fill in your name on that schedule, and we will begin on September 24th.
Any others? The Zoomers are at peace. Anyone here? Any announcements?
Thanks, Jimmy. Anita Kamek. I wanted to remind everyone that our meeting for business is next Sunday, and we will be meeting here, not on Zoom, at the Rise of Service. Will we have a little time? Shortly thereafter, right?
Bring your lunch.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, everybody can bring a snack or bring your lunch, and we'll do that before we start with our business. Thank you.
I'll bring hunger and gratitude.
I'd like to make a small correction to Anita's announcement. We will be meeting for monthly meeting in person here, but it will also be on Zoom. For those people who can't attend in person, you still have access to it on. I should be as correct as I can be. We'll try it on Zoom and see how it works, but we're trying to give you access.
Laura Gabbard here. Jeff couldn't be here today, but he wanted me to remind everyone that the fall hike is coming up on October 7th, and there's a flyer out on the bulletin board with information. There's also a sign-up sheet on the table, and he's asking that people sign up so we get an idea of how many people to expect. If you have any questions, his contact info is on that.
Mary Dooley. What was I thinking when I was suggesting that we might do a civil rights pilgrimage in September or October? Not gonna happen. Think spring. We'll still work on it, but I obviously need more preparation time.
Linda Bryant. I wanted to announce that it is nearly fall, and that's the time when nominating committee does its work. And I noticed that this week, Tom Farrington sent out the committee list. I'd like you all to look at that committee list and think of committees you might be willing to serve on. If you don't, we'll call you anyway.
Yeah, right.
And then look at the list of who's on nominating committee, and let someone on nominating committee know what you're interested in. That's Lynn Adams, Joanne Gulley, Joanne Farrington, Jan Baker, and Lee Comer. And me.
Oh God, we gather today to celebrate and to acknowledge those persons in our lives who bring meaning and joy and happiness to this world and to ourselves. We are especially grateful, oh God, to those who age well, who face the years with good humor, with confidence, with a keen sense of appreciation. Spare us, O God, from the impulse of telling everyone what is wrong with us. And make us ever mindful instead of the needs and cares and burdens that others carry. We thank you, O God, for the children in our lives, for our grandchildren, and for the children who live next door to us, who come to meeting to be with us. How good it is, O God, to see the world through their eyes with their happiness and spontaneity. May we bear with joy and a sense of happy responsibility our duty to make this world a better place for them. Not resentful or envious of their youth, but grateful instead for their opportunities to learn and to grow into the fullness of humanity. We remember the people of Morocco, oh God. We cannot imagine such devastation. And though we complain often about all the things civilization requires from us, building buildings that survive earthquakes, building expensive infrastructure that outlasts calamity. Oh God, we know that in our hearts we are fortunate to hold one another accountable to such standards. And so we thank you today also, oh God, for human minds who devise better ways for us to live together. And we ask, oh God, for charity of heart for those who don't know and don't experience what we do right now. Oh God, for all the blessings in this life, even the ones we sometimes resent, we give you thanks. Amen. Well, I think we're going to collect food for our friends at Kunat. Do we have some helpers with that? All right. For years, I deluded myself into thinking that the high point of worship was my sermon, but now I think it's watching Michael collect the food. Oh, my. Well, I was thinking this week about a Quaker conference that I went to this past spring, and where one of the event sponsors, a non-Quaker wanting to sell us insurance, started listing all the good things Quakers had done over the years. The anti-slavery work, the work for women's equality, our feeding initiatives after World War I and II, yada, yada, yada. It felt a bit like pandering. And he didn't even mention one of our finer accomplishments, that the oldest bridge in the United States was built by a Quaker, William Penn. The Frankford Avenue Bridge over Pennypack Creek, a stone arch bridge built in 1697 and still in use today. To be accurate, William Penn didn't build it himself. He had the Pennsylvania General Assembly order every local male to help build the bridge or be fined 20 shillings, roughly $66 in today's money. A few people, no doubt Baptists, snidely observed that the bridge made it easier for Penn to travel from his home in the Pennsylvania countryside into the center of Philadelphia. People can be so negative. We've been reflecting on the first maps in our lives, be they people or paper, and the way and effects that they always have on us, continue to have on us as our life unfolds. More specifically, we've been discussing and identifying the common features on maps and their parallels in our own lives. And today I want to talk about, as you can guess, bridges and their significance. not just because bridges help us get from one geographical place to another, which is indeed handy, but because bridges make it possible for us to cross the cultural gaps that stand between us and others, which in this era of separation and disconnection is increasingly vital. We need to find a way to make bridges. One of my first bridge memories is the Lincoln Memorial Bridge in Vincennes, Indiana, crossing the Wabash River into Illinois. My grandparents lived about 4 blocks from that bridge, and we used to walk down to the bridge when I was a kid. And if you've ever been on that bridge, how many of you have been on that bridge? Ned, I know you have, Ned. Yeah. If you've ever been on that bridge, you know that there's hardly anything on the Illinois side, except for a few taverns, because Illinois' drinking age was younger than, and so students from the university would travel back and forth on that bridge. Other than that, there's nothing for 9 miles until you get to the little town of Lawrenceburg. But on the Illinois side of the Wabash is a monument to Abraham Lincoln, because it is believed that that's where Abraham Lincoln and his family crossed the river. I remember seeing that monument and asking my father why the monument to Abraham Lincoln was on the Illinois side of the river. And he said all the people who were afraid of the river stayed on the Indiana side. And only the brave people, like Abraham Lincoln, crossed the river, so the statue went on the brave side of the river. Now, when my father told me this, I knew nothing about ferries. And I asked my dad how Abraham Lincoln got across the Wabash River if there wasn't a bridge. And my brother Glenn slugged me, which was generally his opening statement in all of our conversations, and said, "You idiot, he went across on a helicopter." Didn't I know anything? Well, apparently not. What I remember now, other than my brother's grasp of history, was the idea that there were 2 kinds of people. One kind summoned the courage to cross the gaps, so statues were built of them. The other kind were those who crowded the shore, longing to cross, but lacking the courage. So they just built houses and stayed put right where they were. And that there were always more people who hung back than moved forward, which is why Vincennes is bigger than Lawrenceville. That was my childhood reasoning, which turned out to be somewhat accurate. Of course, crossing the Wabash River became a moot point when bridges were built, but there for a while it took real bravery to cross a river, to traverse that gap, and I guess in a way it still does require great courage to cross these gaps, these chasms. It has always been easier to fear the gaps that divide us than to bridge them. Bridges present us with choices, one of which is this: should I cross this bridge or should I burn it? I was always taught never to burn a bridge before or after I had taken it. Were you ever told that? Don't burn a bridge. I taught that to my boys. Don't burn your bridges. People told us that just in case we might have future need of someone or something, so shouldn't cut off the relationship altogether. Don't burn your bridges. You never know, you might need that connection, that relationship in the future. But I've been thinking about that, about burning bridges. And I don't think that's true, because I think there are some bridges that merit burning. not only after we cross them, but before we take them in the first place. There is some territory you and I should simply never enter. Some chasms in our lives exist for a reason, and we are wise to stay on this side of them. If it is true that we are known by the company we keep, it is doubly true that we are known by the company we avoid. Some bridges should be burned, not crossed. Here's how to tell the difference. If crossing a bridge requires the surrender of our morality, we should remain where we are. If crossing a bridge requires us to ignore tyranny or disregard human dignity, we should stay put. Some bridges should never be crossed. Some chasms are so vast we can never reconcile where our conscience requires us to be and where others ask us to be. I'm reading an interesting book this week. It's a book about Georgetown University. It's a Jesuit college in Washington, D.C. The book is called 272. It's just that number, 272. And it's about a decision made by the Jesuits in 1838 to sell 272 enslaved African American Catholics. Sold into early graves their own brothers and sisters in the faith so they could save and expand the largest American Catholic mission project at the time, which was Georgetown University. The slaves were sold to 2 plantations in Louisiana in the deepest South, where slaves were treated brutally. Husbands separated from wives, children from their parents, families broken and scattered, never to see one another again. The book 272 is about those families and their descendants. The sale of the enslaved people generated so much money that it also funded and supported Jesuit missions, schools, and colleges in other northern cities, including Boston College, Loyola University, St. Louis University, and Fordham University. It is no exaggeration to say that the spread of American Catholicism was made possible by the sale of Black Americans. This is one bridge Georgetown University should never have taken. Isn't it so true in our lives that some bridges appear at first to be our salvation, when in fact they can be our ethical ruination? Some bridges we take would have been better off burned. A Quaker query for us as we stand before the bridges in our lives. Will this bridge unite me with those from whom I have been estranged? Will it help me love more deeply and thoroughly? Or will this bridge take me to a moral territory I should not enter? May we always know the difference.
If hearts are free, turn in the green book. O young and fearless prophet, page 98. Stand if you're able. Good job. Wonderful. I worked in Waco with a company several years ago and was involved with Baylor University in some of their programs. I met Professor Fulgham, who was the brother of Robert Fulgham. Sound familiar? And so I thought of that this week when I talked to Phil about was he still mapping and bridging. And I thought one of the maps that I have used in my life for many, many years was everything I needed to know I learned in kindergarten. All I really need to know I learned in kindergarten. All I really need to know about how to live and what to do and how to be, I learned in kindergarten. Share everything. Play fair. Put things back where you found them. Clean up your mess. Now, some of you are starting to poke your partner already. Don't take things that aren't yours. Say you're sorry when you hurt somebody and wash your hands before you eat. Flush. Warm cookies and cold milk are good for you. Live a balanced life. Learn some and think some and draw. And paint and sing and dance and play and work every day some. Take a nap every afternoon. When you go out in the world, watch out for traffic. Hold hands and stick together. Wonder. Remember the little seed in the styrofoam cup? The roots go down, the plant goes up, and nobody really knows how or why. But we are all like that. Goldfish and hamsters and white mice and even the little seed in the styrofoam cup, they all still die. So do we. And then remember Dick and Jane books, and the first word you learn, the biggest word of all, look. Everything you need to know is in there somewhere. The golden rule, love and basic sanitation, ecology and politics and equality and sane living. I wish you well this week. May God be with you. Amen.